Sirach 26, verse 20 says, "When thou hast gotten a fruitful possession in all thy field, sow it with thine own seed, trusting in the goodness of your own stock." Shalom, following Yeshua. Welcome again to the Rock. And no, this video, you will not see my face. I want you to focus on the soil. This is one of my raised beds, amongst many of my raised beds. I just sowed this one. I believe I put spinach in this one. And I wanted to talk about husbandry, because this is one area that I believe that if more of us men got in tuned with, it would really fine-tune who we are as men and as husbands, especially those of us that are married, whether you have 1 or 2 or 5 or 10. The root word of husbandry, we say animal husbandry or plant husbandry. The root word is husband. And one of the primary purposes of a husband is to protect, to provide for. But provide what? We always liken it to finances, in which, yes, we are to provide those things. But Ephesians chapter 5, verses 26 to the end of the chapter, one of the things it says that we as husbands are to do are to nourish and cherish. Fruitful possession. This is some good soil. I actually make this soil. This soil is made from leaves put in the compost or put in our chicken coop. And then the chickens scratch and poop all over it. And then I take it out and compost it for months and months and months. I'm going to show you just one of our bins, what it's looking like right now. You see this? See that bed right there? See that one right there? Making my own compost, my own nutrients. Trusting in the goodness of my stock. Sowing it with my own seed and putting my own nutrients. That word, when the Bible says that a man is to nourish and cherish, that word nourish is to bring up to maturity. To literally provide the nutrients for her. And you are to trust in your own stock, brothers. Not in the stock of others. Too many men today are trusting in other men to take care of their wife, to help their wife spiritually. Other men, to help your wife spiritually. Isn't that your field? Don't you know what you put in your soil? Now, do you know what other men put in their soils? Yes or no? So when you're trusting your wife in the hands of a pastor, or an elder, or even her own family, especially if you see that her mom is divorced or mom is a wreck and father is can't take care of himself. Why are you allowing them to sow seeds into your possession? Would you allow, if I'm trying to grow mustards in here, would you allow, or if you're trying to grow mustards in this garden right here, would you allow me to come in and sow tares, weeds into this? Over here, I have fig trees. That's the fig trees. But I have a bunch of chickweed and mint. And those are some pear trees right there. And in there, right now, I planted this mint in here. And the chickens like the mint, and they like the chickweed, as you can see. They like this. But there are things that I didn't want in here. Like that plant right there. I don't want it. And when you allow somebody to sow in your field, brothers, what you're doing is you're allowing somebody else to nurture your field. You're allowing somebody to sow their information into your wife, your field. The Bible says, trust in the goodness of your stock. Sow it with your own seed. I'm going to be a little bit graphic here. Would you allow somebody to come and put their semen in your wife? No, we would call that adultery, wouldn't we? Well, what is semen? Information, right? Information. Semen is seed. It's information. It will grow something to the likeness of the parent, of the seed giver. That would be that other man. Information works the same way, brothers. Information sown into your wife that is not from you, that is not prescribed from you, will also manifest the growth from the parent plant. Now, people today say, well, I'm talking from the Bible. No, you're not. You're not. Because as a man, you should not want to sow seed. And as a man, you should not just be running around allowing people to sow seed into your field. You notice that the Bible says father to husband. So she learns from her father, and then she goes to her husband. And that husband is now in charge of sowing the seed. The father protects the field, keeps her a virgin, raises her up, makes sure that field is pure and can be given purely to the husband, who then puts his information into that field. That's the whole meaning of, you see in today's westernized, the man, the father walks her down the aisle and puts her hand in the hand of the husband. But today it's like a freaking menage, whatever they call it, menage a toy, whatever that thing is called, where you have, while the father may walk her down the aisle and put her hand in your hand, the pastor's also taking her hand. The elders are taking her hand. The government's taking her hand. The society is taking her hand. Her mama still ain't let go of her. So you're just sharing the woman in a, open relationship with various entities in society, in the world, that are going to sow their seed. Read the book. How many people sold their information into Sarah's ears? Rebecca, Leah, Rachel, our forefathers. How many? Brothers, how many times do you see men running and sitting their wives down at the feet of anybody else? Anybody else? And if the man was going to do it, it likely would have been his father, his own father. And if not his father, her father. But today you have everybody who is sowing seeds into these women. And by the time you get a field that's growing so many things that you don't want them in there. You don't want those things in there. So you spend the first couple of years of your life trying to deconstruct the field. You're plowing it over, and if you know anything about plowing fields, when you plow fields, there's a high possibility you could ruin the topsoil. This is why husbandry is so important. This is why the Bible references so much of the book to agricultural lessons. And I'm saying this because, again, I get questions. Brother allowed his wife to ask me this question, and me and him already talked, but I'm saying this. He was like, man, you should do a whole series on this. I said, okay. And he came out from one of these groups, and his wife had learned from the group, not him, the group. That's what the Bible says. Wives, if you wish to learn anything, ask your husbands at home. Ask him at home if you want to learn it, because he's the one who is sowing into your field. He should be the one planting the seeds. He is the one who says when he has a fruitful possession, that means you are his possession. You're not the church's possession. You're not the Falling on Shua Channel's possession. It's not community property. You are the possession of your husband. You are. And I want that ground level. We have to understand this. We have to understand getting our hands in the soil, growing food. Because when these seeds are growing, I'm going to know what I put into it. I'm going to know what I put into this soil. I know that it's going to have potassium, nitrogen, phosphorus, manganese, magnesium, nitrogen. I know that this is going to be a nutrient dense. So when she bears fruit, brothers, when your wife bears fruit from the soil, getting from the nutrients that you put in her, the fruit that you bear, that she's bearing, is going to be good for you. When that mustard grows up and I eat the mustard, it's going to be good for me because I put in the nutrients. And she grew based off of the nutrients and the information that I put in her, not somebody else. What a lot of brothers find out is that when it comes time when she bears fruit, she's bearing the fruit of another man. She's bearing fruit that is good for other men to eat, not you. The fruit that she bears is good for the pastor. It's good for society. It's good for the economic system. It's good for government. It's good for the powers that be. But the person that it's least good for is you. Thus, we have 80% percentile divorce rate, because you are the last one. That field that she, it's your possession, right? You're the last one that what is grown is good for, because it wasn't your nutrients that were put in. It's not your seed. It's not your information, and then it wasn't you who nurtured her. And society today, just like you see them today, they grow our food and give it to us and say, eat it. That's the same situation they do with our wives, because we are failing to protect them. And if your wife don't want your protection, she don't want your seed, she don't want you to nurture her. What does the Bible say in Sirach chapter 26? Sorry, 25. Last couple verses. Give the water no passage. Last two verses, brothers and sisters. Give the water no passage, neither give a wicked woman liberty to gad abroad. If she go not as thou wouldest have her, cut her off from thy flesh, give her a bill of divorce, and send her out of your house. Cut off her from her flesh, that means no more sex. Put a bill of divorce in her hand and send her out of your house. Put her away. Putting the bill of divorce in her hand and then put her away. That lines up with Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 1 through 5. You need to be focusing on not just adding any field, but adding a field that you can cultivate. This is another one of my gardens. I sowed my seed. I put my compost down that I spent years working on. This is why I tell you, brothers, all the time, when we have our conversations, you ask me questions, you have to have a vision. You have to know what you're going to be putting down on your family, given to you by Yah. So many of us are trying to build our house on stony ground. So many of us are trying to build our house on the path, on rock, or build our garden on rock. We're not building our homes on a solid foundation. We're not building it, and I'm firmly believing that because of the lack of our agricultural understanding today, because society has done a great job grabbing us all, throwing us in cities, disassociating us from food, from food production, from the things that the Bible talks about, the parables that are in the Bible. Sheep led to slaughter. I am the true vine, ye are the branches. If it doesn't bear fruit, like these fruit trees, cut it down. Bundle it, it's fit for the fire. How do you understand what that means? How do you understand the Torah when it says that for 3 years that tree is not food for you? And then you read that same thing, I believe it's in Luke chapter 9 or 10, the first couple verses, the first like 9 or 10 verses, where the gardener, the man goes and looks at his tree and says it's not bearing fruit. And the gardener says, well, let me dig around it. For 3 years I've been coming here and looking for fruit, and I haven't seen any. And the gardener says, well, let me dig a hole around it and dung it. And if it does not bear fruit that 4th year, then let's cut it down. How do we understand that, brothers? There's an indicator to me of, how much time should we give? Listen, there's enough. If you've cultivated, if you've done what you needed to do, and it's not bearing fruit, dung it and give it 1 more year. If it doesn't work, brother, cut it down. Count it as a loss. Because what that tree is going to keep doing is going to keep extracting nutrients from the soil and taking the nutrients from the other trees that are trying to be productive, but can't be productive. Because that one tree that's not going to bear any fruit is taking nutrients from the trees that are trying to bear fruit. It's a little indicator. I have a study on that one coming up. But you keep asking me these questions. I know I said I was going to do a different type of video, and I've been off the channel for a little bit because tornado took down the tower. I don't even know where it took it down, but it took it down. So I'm bringing this out there. I'm sorry this video is longer. I'm going to be cutting them down a little bit shorter, but goodness gracious, the questions are coming in and they're so good. And I see that there's a yearning. There are sisters that want to be covered. There are sisters that want to be better wives. That's the most inspirational thing, is women who have talked to their husbands and say, hey, I just don't understand it. And these men know I ain't interested in their wife. What I am interested in them is Israel being restored by how it started. Family. Husband, wife, children, the family unit, and then expanding from there. Anyways, maybe I came out a little bit passionate. I've been off the channel for a little bit. I got some excellent questions during that time, and I missed you, and I haven't even done that study on submission obedience, which we will be doing soon. Anyways, I hope this is a blessing to somebody. Men, sow your field with your own seed. Shalom.